So in today's video I'm running you through the 6 different ways that we're growing tomatoes at the moment. We had the most success we've ever had growing tomatoes from seeds, and we didn't expect to be so successful. There is a lot of bugs flying around in here, lots of little moths and things. I've left this door open all day and I think that might have been a bad idea. Alright, so the different methods that we're growing tomatoes. I decided to trial a whole bunch of different options since we had a whole bunch to play with, and I'm going to run you through how they've gone now, and we'll keep tabs on them throughout the season, and then maybe I'll make a whole video at the end of the growing season about which one went best. But for now I'll just give you a bit of an intro to what we're trying. So firstly, these are the last 4 left over that I haven't done anything else with yet. They're just left in their punnets at the moment. We started them out in seed trays like these, and then when they grew big enough that they should move on from there, we've moved them into here. Now they're clearly getting too big to be in these pots. I think we'll find, if we look underneath, that you'll start seeing some of their roots coming out the bottom, which isn't a great sign, but I haven't figured out what we're going to do with those ones yet. So they'll inevitably move into one of these other forms unless I find something else to do, but for now that's where they are. So this bed here in the greenhouse is our most successful growing area so far. It's a mix of granny's throwing tomatoes and we've got roamers. So there's 3 of the granny's throwing ones and then 2 roamers there, and we've got some basil growing in the corners, but they haven't really 100% taken off yet. They're doing okay. So these have been planted in a bed that was filled up with compost from our compost bay, and then some soil put on top of that, and these have just been planted in. The soil's actually dropped quite a bit as things have compacted down underneath. These are definitely going quite well. This one up the end seems to be struggling a bit more. I don't know if he's not getting as much sun as the others, but the ones up this end are doing really well, and there's quite a few flowers popping up on these now. Now, this greenhouse isn't particularly set up for doing this, so the poles didn't land on great positioning to be able to run strings down. So I've just used these hooks that I used to have from my old job that we usually used to keep electrical leads off the ground when you're building. Our next option is the Kratky method. So we've got this one growing, which is another granny's throwing tomato. This one started later than the others, so it is a bit smaller, and I've chopped a few of the lower things off. So with this one it did start in dirt, and then we've popped it into here. So you can see the roots there coming out, and then they're in the water there with a mix of water with hydroponic additives in it. Now this one, he's looking better today, but he was struggling. You can see on some of the leaves that they've kind of got a bit of a discoloration going on there. I think that I may not have cleaned the bucket out enough. It definitely looked like clear water when I put them in, but maybe it just wasn't clear enough, and that might be the reason why he feels like he's struggling a little bit. There's definitely flowers on this, but he feels like he's not super healthy compared to some of the others growing. So we'll see how it pans out, but I think it might have been my fault. This is the first time that I'm doing Kratky and first time I'm doing any hydroponic stuff, so I'm inevitably going to be making mistakes on this one as I learn.
So the Kratky method is basically a version of hydroponics that doesn't require any air pumps. Instead, the plant sits with just the tip of their roots in the nutrient solution and the upper part of the roots exposed to air. As the plant grows, it absorbs the water and the roots grow longer as the water level subsides, and this ensures that it's always exposed to the perfect amount of both air and nutrient solution. This is pretty similar to another method referred to as deep water culture, and the difference is in that version you'd run an air pump to add an additional level of oxygen into the water, and you'd also replenish the water more often so the roots are further into the water than in the Kratky method.
Just outside the greenhouse we've got a few potted up tomato plants and some carrots there. Again, we've got some granny's throwing and some moneymaker. The rouge ones down the end there as well. These have not long been transported out into these pots, probably just a few days, but they seem like they're going alright. The next ones we have growing are these ones over here. They're again the granny's throwing tomatoes, and these ones have been out for a little while. You can see the difference between these ones that have been out in the ground growing with the natural temperatures and the ones that have been more in the greenhouse, because the greenhouse ones are definitely kicking on the most. So even though these have been out in planted soil and they probably started out just a little bit further ahead of the other ones, they've actually fallen a little bit behind now. But they're growing fine. They've got flowers on them now. And lastly, we've got this growing group here, which are the Rouge and the Moneymaker tomatoes. We've got 5 going on here, and these are almost like a control group. As soon as they were old enough to be outside, these ones got planted outside. So I dare say that these haven't copped in as much love in the greenhouse as some of the others. They're doing okay. They don't seem to be exploding, but they've definitely at least doubled in size since I reckon that they've gone out. You can see that I've got a couple of Coke bottles there. They're actually not doing anything anymore. They're just sitting in there, but they were sitting over the basil because the basil, when it first went out, it just got eaten alive. So I've just taken them out now because it was starting to get a bit hot for them and they were starting to wilter a little bit, but they certainly became a good protective cover over the top of them and brought the basil back to life after they looked like they were a no-go. So yeah, I'll keep tabs on how they're all growing over the season, keep you guys in the loop, and we'll see how it all pans out. I feel like the ones in the greenhouse that are in the bed are probably going to be the ones that take off the most. I really want the Kratky one to do well because I really want to experiment a bit more with doing a lot more hydroponics. I haven't got a setup with the grow lights or anything like that. It's literally just the water in the buckets. So if we go quite well with that, I think I'll expand on it quite a lot. And obviously down at the garden, the ones that got planted out first with the archway, I would really love for them to grow up the arch. By the end of the season, I think that would look just look immaculate. So fingers crossed that they do well. But I feel like by the end of the season, we're just going to be overflowing with tomatoes. So I'm sure we'll come up with a lot of good recipes and we'll be sharing them around. So looking forward to that end of the season. All right, so it's been about a week, maybe a few more days after that, since the last time we checked in on our tomatoes. So I thought, why not check in and see how they've progressed in this short time? And then we might do some updates throughout the season, but I'll give a big update at the end of the season. But a bit of movement's happened in this 1 week, so let's check it out. So these ones in this bed, I'm going to call these our control group because not much has gone on with them. They were planted first off the ranks. They didn't spend much time in the greenhouse. I think they got to about yay big before they came from the greenhouse out here. So there's definitely been a lot of growing since then, but because the weather was cold, well, not greatly warm, there hasn't been mass growth on these, so they've been just kind of like a control cruising along group. So in this bed we have just some compost from our compost bins in the bottom there, so not store-bought compost, some soil on the top, bit of straw, nothing exciting going on. We've given it some plant feed not too long after they were planted, but we haven't really touched them since then. The growth on these isn't as much as some of the others. However, they are the first ones to start producing tomatoes, and we've only just noticed that today, so come have a look. Look at this little fella. He's our biggest one, and then we've got one just up here, which you can probably just see, and there's a couple others on this one that are growing now as well. Now these are the Rouge tomatoes on this one. We've also got some Moneymakers growing on here. I think that we saw something on these ones earlier, but there's definitely a lot of flowers on them. So yeah, all of them have flowers. In fact, there's flowers on all of the tomatoes that we've planted, but these are the first to actually have fruit growing. These are our granny's throwing tomatoes here. They're probably similar to the control group in that not much has gone on here. They've just gone from inside to outside. Oh, I can see there's a couple growing from last season when the tomatoes dropped. I can't even remember what variety they were. But these haven't started producing fruit yet. They have grown quite a bit. They're probably a bit dry at the moment. I think we're going to give them a big water tomorrow. But these ones are cruising along just fine. Bit slower start on them because, as like the other ones, it was a bit cooler out here than what we would have liked getting them out, so the growth has been slow, but it's been consistent, so they're doing all right. So I made a mistake and my microphone went flat and I didn't know, and then when I got to look at all my video there was no sound on these, so that was awesome. So I have had to redo the last couple of areas in this video, so that would be explaining why it's a little bit cloudier now and I'm wearing pants because it's cooler. So let's pretend like we never noticed that and move on. So this is the area that's outside the greenhouse zone. These were all here in the last section of the video when we first put this out, and then we've got these two more at the end here that we've just planted up. So they're the last couple that have come out of the greenhouse. We've still got two in there and I'll show you those in a minute that haven't been planted out. Now, when I filmed this yesterday, there was no tomatoes on these yet. However, we've just noticed that there's a couple here. So they're very tiny. I don't even know if I'll be able to pick them up on the video just yet. But it's just the ones that are down here. So again, the money makers and the rouge ones are the ones that have started to pop up. So that's really exciting. But yeah, we've noticed that the couple down the end in the barrel pots, they're not growing as well as some of the others. They look all right today. The one at the back still looks a bit droopy, but they seem to be not going as well as some of the others, and we think it's to do with the pot. So we'll just keep trying and we'll see what happens. I think this is my most favourite thing that I'm growing at the moment, not because it's going better than anything else, but just that it's the first time that I'm doing some sort of hydroponic setup, and it's actually improving on what it looked like that first couple of days. So at the start of this video when we first showed it to you, there was a lot of leaves that looked kind of like these ones here at the bottom that had discoloration and were a bit droopy and weren't doing great. But since then, in the last sort of week and a half since we filmed that, it started to brighten up. It only took a couple of days for it to start looking better again. There's some flowers going on, but my favourite bit about it is watching the roots grow. I'll flip a little bit of video here again to show you what the roots look like last time, and then this is the granny's throwing tomatoes again, and then I'm going to show you what the roots look like now because it's really cool to see. Now look at how long they are compared to what they were before. Last time they were only just poking out of here. So that's the growth in about a week and a half, which is just crazy. And our clear winners in terms of how much growth we've had in the last week and a half are these babies here. We've got the granny throwing tomatoes and the Romas in this section here. So the growth on these has been crazy. Even since we first put them in, they obviously took off. And again, between the last portion of this video at the start and now, it's just grown abundantly. We haven't been giving it extra feed in the watering or anything like that. This is purely just from how it's going in the greenhouse. We were sort of surprised that these weren't the first ones to fruit. They were definitely the first to flower, I think, from memory. But based off how we've seen other flowers and other patches turn to fruit straight away, I think these are only a matter of days off seeing the fruit in here as well. So really excited to see how this goes. I think that it's going to definitely take up a lot of space in the long run. I've been keeping the bottoms of these trimmed just to encourage, trucks. I've been keeping the bottom of these trimmed just to encourage a bit more airflow, so hopefully that's helping, because obviously these, if I let them get too unruly, they're going to get really thick and bushy in here. So trying to keep that to a manageable airflow kind of scenario. But yeah, it's all a learning process, so I'm just learning as we go, but I'm very excited how these are going. So there's a look in on our tomato experiment for this season. We've obviously got a bit going on in different areas, different styles of growing, and we're excited to see how it pans out. It might be a matter of some types of tomatoes doing better. We're definitely growing the same things in different areas, so we can compare the pair that way as well. So there's a lot to look into. So that is the initial stages and a bit of a first week and a half catch up there. So let us know below if you want continuous updates throughout the season, or whether you would prefer for us to hold our cards close to our chest and give you a big catch up right at the end of the season when we've seen the results of how things have panned out. I'll see you in the next one, guys.